All right, hey everyone. I apologize for the wait. Technical situation here, but I fix things. That's what I do. Anyway, thank you for joining me for another Greenbridge analysis of Bitcoin. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin here. Specifically, we're going to look at the price action and what's going on, some potential ideas over the next few days. Of course, I have some rants planned for you, of course, and we're going to go through that. So if you're new to the stream, welcome. If you have a symbol that you'd like to see me analyze, whether it's a coin or a stock, please share it in the chat now. I see a whole busy chat there, so nice to see. We're going to get through all that. I'm going to get to that portion once I finish my Bitcoin analysis. I'm going to go right to your questions. So please share your symbol now. If it's an altcoin, make sure to put USD or USDT after it so that I don't analyze the wrong symbol for 3 hours. Okay, so with that being said, let's get started. This is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. Okay, cool. So first things first, before I get to the Bitcoin analysis, I just want to take a quick look at the economic calendar. You should always do that, okay? It doesn't matter which one you use, but you should look at something for the week and just see if there are any major reports coming out. Okay, like the previous week we had NFP and we had Powell talking a couple of times. You need to know that stuff. All right, so real quick, all right, let's see what we have going on here. I'm not showing it on the screen. I'm looking at it off screen. So 10:30 p.m., that's tonight. Royal Bank of Australia, interest rate decision, RBA rate statement. Again, that could move the Aussie or an Aussie cross, but that's not global moving, okay? It's not the dollar, and it's anything that's dollar based usually is much more dramatic. All right, so let's see, on the 7th, which is tomorrow, we have for the Europe GDP, okay, not important, no one cares. Japan GDP, those are not market moving numbers. On the 8th, we have Canada, Bank of Canada rate statement, no one cares. Let's see what else we have. Australia, RBA Governor Low speech, no one cares. What else do we have? China, Consumer Price Index. These numbers, they can have some like slight effects here and there, but again, these aren't like market changing events, okay, like an NFP or an FOMC meeting. On the 10th, we have Harmonized Index of Consumer Prices for Germany. Again, not a big deal. Also on the 10th, we have Consumer Price Index, excluding food and energy, for the US. I mean, those are inflationary numbers for the US. Usually that number comes out around 10 or 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. Important for certain stocks or if you're involved in the stock market. Otherwise, not really a major mover, right? That can have like a minor effect. And that's pretty much it. Also on the 10th, we have Japan, Tankan, large manufacturing. Okay, who cares? So there's really not a whole lot in terms of scheduled economic reports this week. There's no FOMC meetings and there's no NFP, right? NFP is the first Friday of each month, and we had that on the previous Friday. And we saw how the market, what the outcome was as the market closed that day. All right, anyway, so now I see lots of let me just say hello to a few people. We've got Elizabeth, hey, thanks for stopping by, everyone. Travel, Eligius, you got Dan, Notorious, who else? Todd, hey, Todd Schwartz, of course. Schwartz from Romania, my international man of mystery. Look, he's watching while operating. That means he must be in the field somewhere doing something very mysterious. Cool. Thanks for stopping by. All right, so we're going to get to your questions. Elizabeth, I apologize about Thursday. I usually stream on Thursday. I had a website problem. I had to fix that. So, that's why I wasn't on the stream. So I apologize for that. But anyway, thanks for missing me. All right, let's talk about Bitcoin. So we had this Bitcoin move. Now, first thing I have to say, right, before I get into the price action here, where were we a month and a half ago? Go back to my streams, or as you know, here comes a rant. Go back to my streams on the channel here and see what I was saying a month ago when Bitcoin was pushing these highs over here. What was I saying about these levels? I was saying that they were high risk, okay? No one believed me. Everyone's like, oh, you're just too conservative, Mark. You just whatever. You don't take any trades, right? I know risk, okay? And I was not willing to take any risk at these levels. No, you know why? As Seinfeld would say. So that's the thing. There were resistance levels up here. There were all kinds of problems up in this area, and why I had no interest in taking risk. Now, along with that, around this time, and I wrote about this in my TradingView article yesterday, around this time, let me just get a little box here. Around this time, right, on the calendar, there were a lot of contrarian signs all over the place. I've talked about them here on the stream. There were billboards out in my local town, buy Bitcoin. There were signs at gas stations. The titles on YouTube videos were outrageous and they were overwhelming. There was so many videos. You are going to become a millionaire if just buy these altcoins. Early investors are going to be millionaires, billionaires. Nonsense, okay? Nonsense. If you got sucked into that, that just says one thing. You are operating from a philosophy of greed, and this is what happens to you, okay? Yes, we are all here to make money, and we all start out that way, from the philosophy of greed. We want to make money, of course, but money comes from, or profits, or a positive outcome, is a byproduct of effective risk management and understanding how markets work. So if you're driven by, oh, I'm going to miss out. Oh, my fake guru, my favorite fake guru told me if I buy this altcoin, blah, 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 I'm going to make millions, blah, 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 blah. Right, we're going to take a look at some of those altcoins here in a moment. But my point is, you could have stayed out of this. Now, I see some people here, they had limit orders and they got tapped in at wholesale prices. All you had to do was wait, okay? These are good prices for investing. Now, another thing that I was talking about a month and a half ago, when people were asking me about investing, what was I saying? I was saying skew smaller because we are at high risk levels. Anyone recall that? I was saying skew smaller, meaning if you normally buy $500 a month or $1,000, when you're at highs, cycle highs, which again, you don't know when the high is going to actually establish itself. We can see it now after the fact. But at the time, even though I had no idea that this was the high, I knew the risk was too high. Okay, so skew smaller. Instead of buying a $500 batch like you normally would, you buy a $250 batch or maybe a $100 batch. Okay, now that we are at a dramatic low, you can go in skewed larger because you saved your money from the highs. Okay, markets cycle. So when something is pushing new highs constantly, like we had, and everyone was getting rich and all this other nonsense, and all these things were at resistance levels. Most of these altcoins were flirting with resistance levels, and that was a big warning flag, okay? If you had just waited, now all those people, those impatient people that bought, are now stuck. They're at the mercy of the market, they're in hope mode, and if they used too much leverage or got too big, they're getting banged out of their positions now. And guess who is buying? You are. Well, some of you who've listened to me, okay? Andrew sent out a signal, sent out an email at night about buying some Ethereum and buying some Bitcoin as inventory. So again, inventory. These are wholesale prices. Okay, so that's my rant about just the whole contrarian nature of the market and why you need to really position yourself to bet against the herd. We all start out as part of the herd, but you need to separate yourself from it, and betting against it is usually a good idea. All right, so that means when everyone is doing one thing, you should be thinking that's not a good idea. Real, true, high-quality opportunities are not advertised. They don't put them on billboards. They don't put them on YouTube videos. And by the way, speaking of YouTube videos, I came across a video that talked about, remember we talked about, I was suspicious about, some of these guys must be getting paid. And even Kai, he said here, Kai, one of the followers here, said that he knew someone that was offered money or whatever to push a coin. Well, I came across a video that not only confirmed what I thought, but they came up with some numbers, okay, how much these people were getting paid to push coins. It's outrageous, all right? You're looking at $25,000 to push a coin onto your following, right? So like if I had a big channel, they probably would have came to me and I could have said, yeah, 25,000, and I do an analysis about your stupid coin. That's ridiculous. But anyway, that's why they were so pushing those coins so aggressively. right? And if you're buying into that, you're buying into marketing. You're not buying into actual analysis or, some kind of valid fundamental reason. You're buying into marketing and hype. Now, another thing I want to say before I get into just more detail on this analysis here, because I know I have to put all the rants up front. You have to understand a very, very important lesson from all this, right? This Bitcoin sell-off, very important lesson. You have to understand where we stand as a retail trader and what our purpose is. Our purpose in the grand scheme of things is not to make money or to become wealthy or blah, blah, blah. Our purpose is to make others rich. That is our purpose. So we make the Forex brokers rich, we make the exchanges rich, we make the developers of the coins rich, we make professional speculators rich. That is what we do. They take our money. That is our role. And that's not going to change, right? When you're part of the herd, that is your role. So you need to understand that. And that will help give you some perspective that when someone's so generous and offering, I'm going to give you this free strategy. I'm going to give you thousands of tools. They're so happy to give you all of this information that's absolutely useless. Okay? It's like going to the casino and they're giving you drinks. Why does the casino give you free drinks? Because you're going to stay and you're going to bet. And that's how they make money? So that's the way this game is. Most of the stuff we use, 99% of it that's put in your face is useless. There's no advantage, no statistical advantage to using it, okay? But it's going to stimulate you. You're going to think you see things. You're going to trade. And all of these other players are going to make money. Understand that, because that will help you think more in a statistical nature, which will help you. All right, so those are my rants. Let's get into the chart, shall we? Some people are, man, when's this guy going to stop yelling at me? All right. So Bitcoin had this nice pullback. Now, we talked about, people were asking after the initial move. Remember about a week ago, we were talking about the initial move. Remember the initial move over here? Remember that? And people are like, should we get long? Should we get long? No, shouldn't get long. That's the initial move. I sent out an analysis not too long after that about two long scenarios, which never materialized. They were the higher low and the double bottom. As you can see here, there was an attempt. We had a tail develop, but no green candle, right? This is not a double bottom. So there was no reason to buy at all. None. No reason, which proves one thing. My rules kept me out of this mess. While people were impatient and they had to get in on this initial move, this initial move right here is a very high risk structure when you're getting involved in something, a structure that's showing you lower highs and lower lows, which is what this thing was showing. Not a bearish trend, but it's a corrective structure, and it had not changed. So taking an initial move really puts you in a vulnerable spot for potential fake out, and that's what this was, right? So now it led to this. Everyone got banged out of it, and it made lower lows. Okay, that puts us to where we are now. So as you can see, I have some lines on this chart here. These lines have been on this chart for a long time. Look where this thing bottomed out. I mean, it's probably coincidence. I'm not going to take any, I'm not going to, oh, look, my lines are magical, right? It just happened to touch that line and reversed right off that 42K bottom, right? What was the low there? 41,967, okay? And this thing was there. But that level was there because I had it drawn in for some other reason, right? Obviously, it was a level. Buying activity stepped in there, and it stepped in hard. Okay, so that's important going forward. Now, let's talk about this price action right here. So we have two inside bars, okay, and they're pin bars. Some people are going to take that and say, oh, look, possible buy signal, but this is not a buy signal, okay? It's an aggressive one, but not one I would take. The reason is this box that I drew here, that's the range of the large bearish candle. You're still inside that range. So in order for this thing to be a long as far as swing trades go, this thing needs to prove itself in terms of stability, and we're far from that. Two little pin bars mean nothing, especially when they're inside bars after such a large move. These could be a bearish continuation pattern, all right? Because the momentum right now is bearish. This is bearish momentum. lower high, made the lower low. There's no double bottom. This doesn't really qualify as a higher low because it hasn't spent enough time. So that means no swing trades long. I wouldn't go into this thing yet. It's aggressive. It's like, again, it's that initial move situation like we talked about earlier. If you buy into this now as a swing trade, you're basically getting back into something like this again. And you're going to have to face the same risk again. This thing, in theory, based on the way this looks right now, right, you're likely to see some sort of attempt higher. It's going to suck in a lot of people thinking they got the bottom and blah, blah, blah. And if it establishes another lower high in this area, you're looking at a test of the low again. That's the type of price action I'm anticipating over the next week. Now, people that are making these ridiculous predictions, Bitcoin's going to go to 20K and blah, 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 blah. Never listen to people, right? Just a month and a half ago, these same fools, these same clowns were saying, there's a 70% chance that Bitcoin's going to be at 85K in December. I don't think that one's coming through, all right, because we got a long way to go before we get to 85K, especially off of this level, right? So stop listening to people. Listen to price. Don't even listen to me. Listen to price. And price right now says not good for swing trades, right? Now, as far as position trades and investing, these, like I said, are good prices. Now, you need to understand the difference. Most of you that took those trades, I know who you are, so you understand the difference, right? These are position trades. You're building inventory because you want this thing to go lower. That'll give you even better prices to average into. If you get another test of low, if you get something like that, great price to lean into some more. Now, keep in mind, if the bearish momentum continues, in theory, these supports should break, okay? And it's possible to see the 30K low, all right, which is a lot lower, as you can see here. 30K is over here. So it's possible. Now, so that's what you have to keep in mind there. Does Bitcoin prove itself around those low 40s, or maybe it builds a higher low somewhere along the way? Then it will give us some swing trade opportunities. But when it comes to inventory, these are okay prices. And the lower it goes, the better the prices, the more attractive the inventory. You just have to make sure, like I said, you protect yourself by not getting too big too fast. That's why you should buy once a month, maybe twice a month. And as it pushes to extreme, if it pushes to extreme lows, you can skew larger. You can justify that. All right. But once you reach your full allocation, meaning you had planned to invest 5,000 and let's say this thing pushes to 30K, and in that process, because it bounced around a bit, you've invested $5,000 and that was your allocation, that's it, you're done. You don't keep putting more in, because what if Bitcoin goes to 20K, right? We don't know. It can happen. So you have to be open to those possibilities, and what's most important is you have to protect yourself. You have to protect your capital in case we see a situation like that. There's no way to know in advance if it will do something like that, okay? Anyway, so that's my Bitcoin situation. Basically, my point is there's no reason to go long here for swing trades. It's okay for inventory, and if price can test lower, that will give you even more opportunities. Keep in mind with inventory, when price starts, if price for some reason pushes back up into the high 50s or whatever quickly, that gives you an opportunity to actually unload some of your inventory, right? If you happen to have a good price, like if you ticked it at like 43K and the thing is at 53K, why not sell your inventory? Why not? Take it, and then on the next low, you buy it back. Maybe you get it cheaper, right? Nothing wrong with that if it's a fast move like that. You know, in a couple of weeks, your 42K purchase is now at 52K. Or maybe there's no reason to sell. You just let it ride until it reaches a resistance. Why not sell it at retail prices, right? Don't be afraid to do that. Okay, so that's my Bitcoin analysis. I want to get to your questions. I know I'm running behind today. Let's talk about your questions here. And again, I appreciate everyone's patience and all of your questions, okay? So, Elizabeth, okay, Twitter, yeah, Elizabeth, I'm one of these people that's not hyper connected to all this technology. Like I'm not. So yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, okay, so Ethereum. Let's take a look. Ethereum. Yeah, this is going to be fun looking at these altcoins today. Let me just find my proper Ethereum chart. The one that I have my levels on it. Where is it? It's around here somewhere. Hold on, let me find it. Is that it? No, it's Litecoin. Hold on. I have an Ethereum chart. There it is. Okay. So now the Ethereum. Oh, yeah. I saw a question about that long-term Bitcoin. I want to make a point about. All right, we'll get back to that. So let's talk about Ethereum. So here's the bigger picture trend, right? I always talk about in my streams, you should categorize the trend in like long-term category, mid-term, and short-term, right? Or near-term, where we are now. Long-term, this is not a bad-looking chart. There's higher lows, right? It has a little trouble up here making that new high, but these lows are still intact, right? Which basically implies strength. So until those supports are cleared, I have to assume, or I have to accept the idea that Ethereum is acting strong, right? It tested the support. Look, it broke temporarily at 39.15. Remember, Elizabeth, we talked about that price. And it looks like it tested the price and it recovered pretty quickly, right? So, and look at these tails, look at these pin bars, right, coming off the price. So clearly there's buying activity there. So as far as strength or weakness goes, that's a good area. Probably a good area for inventory too, but that is actually much more appropriate for a swing trade than Bitcoin, okay? Because this sell-off is not as dramatic as Bitcoin, although we are still exposed to the Bitcoin situation, right? That's just something you have to keep in mind with these coins. They don't completely trade on their own just yet. So if Bitcoin has a hard time, even if this thing if it gives a buy signal and starts to do something, if Bitcoin fails, this thing's not going anywhere. All right, that's what you have to keep in mind. Just like gold and the dollar, right? Gold had that rally a few weeks ago, and everyone's like, gold's going to 5,000. And I looked at the dollar, and the dollar was on its highs. Gold's not going to 5,000, right? Gold is a bigger market, and as we saw, gold gave it all back. So that's the same idea here with Bitcoin and Ethereum. If Bitcoin fails, like look at this buy signal back here, okay? And then Bitcoin failed, and this thing gave it all back. So you have to keep that in mind, that these things don't trade on their own, right? That's just another level of risk that you have to keep in mind. But other than that, as far as buy signal goes, yeah, you may get something here. You have this little inside bar, you have a current pin bar. If this current pin bar high is taken out, you have a buy signal. Now, the next question is, what is the risk? And what is it relative to potential reward, right? That's a very important question that you have to answer every time. And the low here of that pin bar is what, I guess 30, we can round that to 39 even, okay? So if you're buying this thing at, what is the high, 42.38? Well, you're looking at what, 300 points, something like that, possibly, maybe 350 points of risk. Can you justify that? Can you get at least 1-to-1? Let's see, so if you're buying this thing at 42, that means you need to be making 45. What is this high over here? 44. So you would need this thing to start pushing up into here, right? Up in this area right here. What's the close here? 40, what is this high? 40, all right, so 45 something is gonna be around here somewhere, right? Yeah, that's like 45.5 right there. So you would need price to get back up into this area. And yeah, it's within reason. So, I mean, 1-to-1 is within reason, but you have a lot of resistance in this area. So if Bitcoin is consolidating, and we're going to get into that here in a moment because someone asked a question about that, then I would suspect that this thing is going to get caught and get stuck up in this area up in here, okay, at these resistance levels. So if you take the buy signal for a swing trade and it makes it into this area, make sure you have some predetermined targets, make sure you have some, make sure you take something off the table, because the chances, the probability that it's just going to break out and keep going are not very good right now. It can change, but if Bitcoin's in a consolidation, Ethereum is most likely not going to break out and go to 10,000 like everyone was talking about a month ago. Hey, Ethereum is going to be at 10K in a couple of weeks, right? So this could be a consolidation. Right now, this is a consolidation. Not as dramatic, I think, as Bitcoin. But look, we can draw a rectangle in this area here. And you see the range low, around basically 3,900, and you have your range high up in here. So you can try to play that range. If this thing breaks out of the consolidation, I mean, in theory, it should break higher because the general structure is bullish, right? But if it breaks lower, which is a possibility, then that's a sign to stay away from this thing, or stop taking swing trades at that point. If you want to try to build some inventory, okay, because I mean Ethereum is not a, it's not like a low tier coin. It's it's coin number 2 in the whole world. Then it's a worthwhile. I think building inventory in something like Ethereum is worthwhile. All right, compared to something like SHIB. Okay, anyway, so that's my Ethereum analysis. Thank you for asking. I hope you found that helpful. Okay, so let me get through here. Travel, all right, cool. Elijah's analysis on XPT. All right, XPT, is that, oh, platinum, interesting. Okay, so that's a metal. Let's take a look here, right? So I don't follow platinum, so first thing I'm going to do is take a look at a weekly chart and see what's going on here on the bigger picture. Now, okay, so since what, April of 2020, it looks like it found the bottom and it rallied pretty significantly, right? There's a pretty significant structure here that made its peak right around in this area, right, followed by a lower high. Since then, it's been correcting. This is on a weekly basis. Now, in that regard, you have a lower high established here, and you are at a potential double bottom. All right, so I would say if platinum is in an interesting location for longs, all right, because this double bottom is possibly a higher low relative to this broad structure that we can see here. So let's go to the smaller time frame. By the way, these are the steps that when I do my analysis, I don't explicitly mention them, but I have steps that I go through, right? That's what you're watching here. So anyway, so now more recent price action, it's trying to find this low, right? And we can see it's a pretty significant area for longs. So what about taking a long? What's the reward risk and all that kind of stuff? Current candles are not supportive, okay? So there's no reason to go long yet, but you do have this level of interest, right? Definitely a level of interest. So what you want to see here for a long, a swing trade long, because you are going against this bearish momentum. You are going against this, and that could be, if that follows through, this thing could push lower. You may get a failed low. So here's what you should be looking for in this area. You look for, I think the higher probability setups for platinum would be the failed low, meaning it pushes below the support and you get a pin bar, okay, on the daily time frame. Something like that would be worth the risk. Your risk would be defined by the size of that pin bar. And then you'd be looking for at least a run, at least to the middle of the range, something like this. That's within reason, and that should give you a good reward risk, at least 1.5 to 1, okay? At least. That's the failed low scenario. Now, if you don't get that, maybe this thing establishes the double bottom, but this is tough because you do have these lower highs right in your face here. So what you want to see, what I like to see, and this is the same thing that I want to see in Bitcoin, I want to see price stability. So I would like to see maybe another double bottom develop, a mini double bottom. Okay, one that occurs maybe over a week as opposed to a number of weeks or months. You want to see a mini one develop here, and then that may be worth giving a try. Or the higher low, where you let the initial move go by first, and then look for the higher low followed by reversal. Now, the even more conservative thing to do would be to wait for one of these lower high resistances to be cleared. When those are cleared, that signals us, that lets us know that the structure is changing, right? That the bearish structure, this corrective structure, is no longer in play at that point. But as you can see, you have to wait for a considerable amount of price action. So it's conservative because you have to do a lot of waiting. But a lot of times it's the better thing to do. You don't get the best price, but at least you're getting an improving structure, and it's likely to follow through higher at that point. So, you're likely to take less pain and or get caught in something that stops out anyway, right? So those are the situations, those are the scenarios I'd be looking for in something like platinum. Now, again, I don't follow platinum very closely. I know it's probably an industrial metal. I would also maybe look for some leadership from gold, but I don't know how closely the two are correlated. So that's platinum. Thank you for asking. Okay, hey Dan, do you think BTC will touch 51.5 or would you advise to sell everything now? Okay, uh, so it depends. The first thing is what kind of trade are you thinking about? Because like I said, swing trades are going to be tough here. Can this thing touch 51.5? Where is 51.5? Let's see here. That's like at this low right there. Right, that's this low right here. Okay, so let me draw a line there. Right, this is 51.5 right here. That's certainly within range. It's within reason, and these are pin bars. So it's possible that this thing could fool around very easily in this area. All right, so if you want it, it's going to depend on how much risk you're willing to take. If you're in the red because you took a swing trade and you know now it's not behaving right, well, I think it's still within reason for this thing to at least test that area, right, and at least get you to break even. You want to keep your risk tight though. If these pin bars break, if like the low of this pin bar breaks 47, what is that, 47,100? If that breaks, it's probably a good idea to take the loss, because the thing is, and again, I'm not giving advice, but by not taking the loss there, you expose yourself to the possibility that this thing will test 40K, right? So it's hard to take a lot of small losses, but usually it's the better thing to do. It's better than one big loss, okay? But it's hard to do. So, I mean, that's what I would say about that. I don't know if it's going to go to 51.5, but it is within range. And it could possibly fool around and touch 51.5 or 52 before it turns again. Again, we're in a highly random area. So the chart is not really going to help us much here with something like that. So I hope that answers your question. You just have to decide if you're willing to take that chance or not. If you're not, and you don't want to take any more loss, then you always have the opportunity to get out. So, or like you said, you can also reduce your position, right, and have less exposure. So you're taking a small loss, but if it goes back to your price, then you don't have to take the full loss. That's also another possibility, but of course it requires a lot of babysitting. Okay, Notorious from Australia. Oh, from Australia. Hello, mate. That's my Australian accent. All right, thoughts on soybeans? ZS1, sure. High or low? Okay, let's take a look. So something like soybeans, ZS, I don't get that question very often, might. But okay, so this is going to be affected by the dollar and things like that. Let's take a look here. Definitely got that nice high or low. Good spot on that one. Let's take a look at the weekly chart and just see what's going on here on the bigger picture. Okay, so yeah, you're coming off of a broader high or low. So that's a good sign. You also took out this little minor resistance from a few weeks back. That's also a bullish sign. All right, and your structure is changing. So this would be, that conservative weight I was just talking about, waiting for, this is a conservative weight. The higher low is in place. Something that's weak should not be making higher lows. It should be making lower lows, or testing the support at least. Made a higher low. It's a sign of strength. Now, this thing is now at this minor resistance level again. So in theory, what this thing should do is break higher. It should make the higher high. So what do you do in this situation? Well, buying that breakout, it's tough because it can fake out and all that kind of stuff, and you have to take more risk. So I don't know what to tell you about that, but it is a valid strategy. You'd have to measure your risk. If you're interested in the breakout on the long side, you would have to measure your risk at least from the previous candle, which is what, 1244? What is that? I can't read the number. Yeah, like 1244.2, 12,000 or whatever, 12 cents, whatever that number is, 12,442. So that would be the low of this candle here, which can easily be touched. But if it fakes out, right, you don't want to get caught in something where it may just go straight to a new low. It's always possible. You should take a look at the dollar too. We'll take a look at that here in a moment. Now, a couple of scenarios to keep an eye out for would be the double bottom over here relative to that low. That would be a great opportunity if it can give you a bullish reversal there, right? Or even something like an inside bar. Look at this nice little inside bar situation that you got back here off the high or low. All right, so maybe you get another one of those. If not, if it clears this level, then you should be looking for a test of low, or basically that would be like a triple bottom, right? You get something like that. Notice back here, look at the outside bar that developed off of that. I mean, that's what you want to see. After that candle forms, right? Something like that. That's what should give you the prompt to, okay, you know, I got the buying activity, I can define my risk, and you know, you have some opportunity there, right? You want to see something like that again repeat if you can get that in these levels. Otherwise, buying the breakout, like I said, in theory, you should see the higher high, but how much higher will it go? Is it going to just go make a higher high slightly and then pull back? So maybe you can wait for that breakout and then the next pullback. A lot of times what will happen is it'll break the resistance, and this old resistance will become a support. Okay, so that's an even more conservative scenario to wait for. Breaks out, you do nothing, and then it pulls back, retests, and you have a much better reward risk and higher probability setup, but it requires a lot of patience. Okay, because you're gonna have to sit there and watch that thing break without you. It may take a few days, and then it has to pull back. It may take a couple more days, that kind of thing. But that's the nature of a swing trade. So I hope that answers your question about soybeans. And when dealing with something like soybeans, you should keep an eye on the dollar index, okay? Because they typically are affected by inflation, interest rates, and things like that. Look at the dollar index. The dollar index had that pullback over the recent week, I guess you could say, right? But this trend on the dollar index is not bearish, okay? If anything, we have a higher low right here. And look, it's trying to work its way higher. This is not good for gold. This is not good for anything that trades against the dollar. And as it goes higher, it's going to start to eat into the profit margins of all the S&P 500 companies and all that other stuff. And you see, if the dollar continues to rally, probably by Q2, they're going to start saying things, well, you know, we beat our reports, but we're going to guide lower because we're expecting to make less money because blah, 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 blah. Yeah, thanks, strong dollar. But that's what the strong dollar does. And that's when that's when you'll really see some pain in the stock market. But that's what you have to watch out for here. Okay, this is not bearish. So things like the euro, the pound, you know, anything that trades against the dollar are likely to be shorts until this trend changes. Now, this thing may consolidate a bit. So the reason why, again, I'm bringing this up is because it can affect your soybeans idea. If soybeans tries to break out, but the dollar breaks out also, that breakout on soybeans is probably not going to go very far. Now, I know there are other variables that drive soybeans besides the dollar, but the dollar can have an effect, a major effect. So something to keep an eye on, okay? Anyway, thanks for asking. And I got a lot of questions. I got to get through this here. Enjoy and appreciate. Oh, cool. Oh, so you're asking about talking markets. Right now, our schedules are just not compatible. So at this time, I don't have any talking markets scheduled. But thank you for asking, and I'm glad you enjoyed the show. Hey, Todd. Okay, can you look at EGLD? Yeah, EGLD. EGLD, USDT. Let's take a look. Ooh, look at that. I love to see when they get hammered like this, okay? Because those are where opportunities are. So now look at this chart, okay? What a chart. How much hype was going into this thing, okay? Especially when it goes vertical like this. Do you see why I always warn people about vertical markets? Do you see why? Because this is probably what's coming next. And people don't realize that. Anyway, so let's before I get into a rant, let's talk about levels here. So, I mean, general chart is bullish. Let's take a look at a weekly chart just to see. Yeah, that's a nice bullish structure, okay? And you have a pullback, so you're not buying the highs, all right? So you know that much. Now, let's see where the support levels are. You have support right around here somewhere. So you are at a support level. And similar to Bitcoin, right? I'm sure many of these coins were affected by that Bitcoin sell-off. You have these, this box here represents the range of that large sell-off candle, right? And since that, you have these two little inside bars, kind of like what Bitcoin's trying to do, except these are a little bit more pronounced on the bear side. So what that means is there's no reason to buy just yet, but you are at a level of interest, right? This is a support level. Nice pullback in a generally strong bullish structure. So it's a place where you should be looking for longs. All right. Now, what you should be looking for here is price confirmation. You have red candles. You have red inside bars. This candle, the current candle, is trying to be a pin bar. If it closes like that, you'll have a pin bar. And that would qualify as a buy signal. But again, these things typically don't trade on their own. So if Bitcoin fails, it's very possible that you can get the buy signal and this thing will break just below the pin bar. So I wouldn't be in a hurry to get into this. What you should probably wait for, and it's the same for Bitcoin, is wait for some stability. See if you can get a initial move, like green candle, initial move, or a couple of candles, followed by a double bottom, okay, or higher low. It may take a few days, maybe a few weeks for such an outcome, but you're better off doing that than getting in too early, right, for a swing trade and then watching this thing just break supports. Because here's the thing, right now it looks strong, right? We go to our weekly chart again, it looks strong and you're at an interesting level. But if it breaks these supports, which is also a possibility, then this thing can go a lot lower, right? And that's what you have to watch out for. If you take a trade based on some buy signal in this area and it breaks, make sure you respect the stops, because that means the whole space is probably going to get hammered and you don't want to be caught in that, right? You don't want to be at the mercy of the market. So in that type of situation, please make sure to respect those stops, take the loss, and then wait for these things to change their tune. And again, the leadership will probably come from Bitcoin. So thank you for asking. That's EGLD. All right, let me see what else we got here. Schwartz. Okay, Schwartz, I said hello. And he's in the field. Cool. Or operating. I wonder what that means. I think the pain is over or just beginning. Buy time or time to go. Okay, no. So like I said before, Schwartz, when it comes to Bitcoin, this is a great time to buy for inventory. I think it's a great time. You're at ugly prices. Yes, prices can get uglier. There's no technical reason to buy, but these are not resistance levels and these are not highs, okay? If anything, this could be in the middle of the range, the middle of the consolidation range. I'm going to talk about that here in a moment because someone asked about wave counts, so I'm gonna answer that question about the consolidation when I answer that. So, but to answer your question, I think it's possible you can see lower prices, but there's nothing wrong with taking some inventory now. Again, you should have a plan with inventory. You shouldn't just say, oh, you know, he said to buy, I'll just buy a little. You need to have like a specific step-by-step plan, meaning, okay, in the first of the month or on the 15th of the month or 2 times a month, I'm going to purchase $500 worth and I'm going to accumulate until I get to $5,000 or $10,000, whatever your allocation is, right? Whatever you intend to invest. And then when you have a situation like this, okay, instead of 500, I'm going to buy $1,000 worth because I'm buying lows. I'm buying it from the people that are getting banged out who had no patience and bought the top. Okay, that's where market opportunities come from, not billboards. I know I don't have to tell you that, but anyway, people that use Robinhood probably could use that lesson. All right, so to answer your question, all right, Schwartz, okay, so cool. Todd, there are voices calling for a bear market. What do you think? Oh, voices. Don't listen to voices, Todd. Are we on our way to 100K with a short stop for 20K first? Now, that's a good question because you mentioned bear market. All right, this is not a bear market. Now we go to the weekly chart here. There's nothing bearish about this. This is not bearish. We're coming off of a high, right? This bigger picture weekly chart on Bitcoin is bullish still, right? Now, how's it bullish? We went from 69K to 42K, blah, blah, blah. It's just a higher low so far. Now, my concern with Bitcoin is, yes, we're in a broader bullish trend. We have higher lows, right? There is a higher high, but the higher high was not a dramatic higher high, which that's where the concern comes in. Current price is overlapping an area. Okay, you see the area back here? Overlapping. Should not overlap, because if that was a wave 1 of a broader 5 and this pullback was a wave 4, based on the Elliott wave rules of an impulse wave, wave 1 and wave 4 should not overlap. There is clear overlap here. So this is not an impulse wave, is what that means. Which means 100K in the month of December is a very low probability. Okay? That's what that means. Oh, but he's so brilliant, this guy. You should have seen that video where he's making all of these irrelevant points and they sound plausible. And he sounds intelligent and smart, and if you apply, oh yeah, it makes sense, 70% blah, blah, blah. Okay, 70% nonsense. And I even said it back then. There's no way you can put that kind of probability on. There's no way to assign that in a mathematical way. Okay, in a real, you know, like a stat, a quant from MIT would probably agree with me, right? There's no way you can put that number on that situation. Anyway, so as far as Elliott wave goes, this situation here means we're in a broad consolidation. That's what it means. So broad consolidation is like gold, right? So let's take a look at gold real quick. You see this mess in gold? This is a weekly chart on gold. Do you see this mess? Do you know how long this mess has been going on for? Over a year, okay? And I talked about this broad consolidation. This is a wave 4. And every time gold has some kind of big move, everyone, here we go. All the gold experts come out. You know, here's a miner and he's been visiting the mines and this thing is going to 50K and blah, 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 blah. And it's all blah, 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 blah. Okay, gold is still in the consolidation, although the broader trend is bullish. I bring up gold is because Bitcoin can do a similar thing. That's what you need to watch out for. If this is a wave 4, it can persist for months. Gold has been in that situation for over a year. So if that's the case, that means we're going to have range lows, and we're going to have range highs, and we're going to have a lot of false starts. Whenever you see a lot of hype and a lot of nonsense, and everyone thinks it's one way, don't follow them, okay? Look at the support, look at the resistance. If it's a resistance, like we're trying to push a resistance and everyone's getting all excited and you see we're going to 100K again, it's probably not going to go there, okay? This thing, I mean, in theory, can test 69K, could be a range high. It's possible. You can imagine how excited people will be if it gets back up there, right? But you have to keep that contrarian point of view in mind. If it fails up there again, there's your range high. But we don't have to worry about that right now because we're not there. We're nearer a range low. I suspect 40K is going to be the range low. I could be wrong. It could be 30K, okay? But I am anticipating a consolidation, not a trend market. Does that make sense? So I wouldn't call this a bear market, and I wouldn't call it a bull market. It's a consolidation. So we're going to see prices all over the place. What you want to avoid in a consolidation is the middle. The middle is the most random. Right now, this is possibly the middle, all right? But the range lows that we can see based on the historical price information here is around 40K. 40K or 30K. Those are potential range lows. We could see the potential range highs. They're in place right now. So with that information going forward, you can at least gauge your probabilities a little bit better, and especially if you change your expectation from, instead of trend, you think, okay, we're in a consolidation. Now keep in mind, the bigger picture is still bullish, right? Which means the range lows are more likely to hold. The range lows, like 40K or 30K, keep that in mind. If price tests those levels, you're going to have a lot of voices and a lot of big mouths coming out, and they're going to be projecting, oh, we're going to 20K, we're going to 10K, blah, 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 blah. Never listen to people, okay? I don't care how much of an expert they are. I don't care how much time. Most of these people are fakes to begin with, okay? Most of them are. Secondly, people that even know how to conduct true professional analysis know that you can't predict like that, because there's no way to know. No one knows anything. Markets are highly random. So we can see on the short term, we can make assessments that are in line with, you know, that are in range of some type of possibility. But long term, there's no way to know. Okay, some piece of news can come out and things change, and no one expected that piece of news, right? And now the market changes and no one saw that coming. A chart will not help you with that. All right, so I hope that answers your question. James, hey James, if you don't mind, now a possible wave count for Bitcoin. Okay, so, from London. Okay, well, welcome, James. So as far as wave count goes, here, let's go to the weekly chart. So I explained part of that before with the wave 4 situation, right? So I suspect that the move that we had previously, right, this rally up here, the first time we reached the 64K high, you see that there? That was wave 3, okay? Now, since that wave 3, I've talked about it, especially when we first started pulling back. I said we could be in a broad consolidation. Then we had this ridiculous move that tried to make the higher high, and it made the higher high slightly, but 4,000 points in the eyes of the bigger picture is really not a lot. Okay, so I would even classify that as a failed high. But it's a new high. It's a new high, but it's not high enough to really, to classify as, I see it as a failed high. Anyway, so I am now counting this wave as a broad wave 4. All right, and this is not a wave 5, it's probably a wave 4. So that's where I am with the broader wave count. Inside of the wave 4, I mean, we have A, B, C, right? That first sell-off, we have the B wave, which took us to 69K. So we're possibly in a C wave right now. If this is a C wave of a broad ABC correction, ABC corrective type of move, C waves are usually, they could be very dramatic, right? So it's possible that we can see much lower prices if that is truly a C wave, but there's no way to confirm that right now. A broader C wave, but the possibility is there. So just something to keep in mind. That's how I would classify the wave counts. Keep something in mind when it comes to Elliott wave. The way I like to use it, I don't talk about it a whole lot, but it's best used when it's most convenient because Elliott wave is highly subjective, okay? And if the wave count is not crystal clear, I don't want to use it then. So I don't want to be confused. There are times where all these other things line up, but then the wave count is off. It's like, all right, the wave count is only going to mess you up. So if it's not crystal clear, meaning we can't see a clear-cut impulse wave and we're not at a clear-cut wave 4, then I'm not interested. Especially if we're like in some type of consolidation and there's like overlapping ABC waves all over the place, then what I do is I'll just zoom out and see, is that some kind of broad consolidation, like a broad wave 4, like gold. Okay, and then I won't get caught up in all the little nonsense inside because it's just not worthwhile. You can get much higher quality or more actionable information by just paying attention to the price structure and the levels. So don't get too caught up in the wave counts. So thanks for asking. And that also answers the question about the consolidation. Okay, Wedge, cool, from Smima Beach. I'd like to go to a beach. Okay, Ludus, look at CRO. Okay, man, I'm behind here. I should be like way ahead. I'm sorry, guys. Thanks for sticking around though. So CRO, this is against Tether. I guess I can look at this. So this looks like that other coin. Looks very similar to one of those other coins that looks like EGLD, right? Looks very similar. A lot of these pullbacks. Look at these moves going into where we were. How long ago was this? When was this thing? When was the peak made here? Just like 2 weeks ago. What is that, about 2 weeks? Maybe a little bit more than. Look at that. 2 weeks ago, these people were going nuts thinking, oh yeah, right, you're going to be a millionaire. I wonder how many millionaire videos were published about this one. And then what do you get at the high? Basically, it's not a full definition of a pin bar, but look at this long tail at the top. Anyway, all right. I don't want to get into another rant. I'll be talking about it for 3 years. All right, so you're pulling back into support levels. It looks very similar to eGold. Look at your supports. That's basically your support, right? You have this range inside of here. What is that? That's around 50 cents, around there. What's this low over here? 36 cents. So between 50 cents and 35 cents, that's your support zone. We can call it a zone. And in that zone, this is where you're looking for longs. All right, if you're looking for a swing trade. Again, these are attractive levels, definitely, for longs. But we just don't have the cooperative price action. So we do have this bullish pin bar situation. We have two inside bars, similar to Bitcoin. You may get an aggressive long here, right? You may get an aggressive buy signal here. But it's aggressive because the structure is working against you. And if Bitcoin fails, which again, there's no reason to really be buying Bitcoin right now. These things, no matter how many buy signals show up, they will fail too. So you have to keep that in mind. Right now, your risk would be defined by this low, 50.95 basically, or 51 cents, you want to call it that, something like that. And you'd have to buy this thing at 56.5. So you're risking about 5 cents, something along those lines, and that can easily break. okay? Because this momentum is not bullish right now. So the more conservative thing to do would be to wait for a double bottom or higher low to develop over the next week, right? That would be more conservative if you can get that. I would be expecting the same behavior out of Bitcoin. And that double bottom or higher low can develop inside of this range here. Does that make sense? So that's what I would look for. Now, if you're thinking inventory, again, you can take inventory at any prices. And again, these are attractive prices for all of these coins. You just don't want to overload because there's nothing that says that these things are going to turn around here and start going higher. If Bitcoin starts breaking those supports and Bitcoin is truly in that consolidation like I talked about, we could be in the middle of the consolidation, which means we have not reached the range low yet. And if Bitcoin revisits the range low or establishes a range low, how are these things going to behave? So you have to keep that in mind. Like I always tell my followers, focus on the risk first and ask, what can go wrong? And what will wrong look like? And if it's wrong, what am I doing? Am I in a small position and I don't care? Am I in a position that I would care if I have to take a larger loss? Like, you have to have all this stuff figured out before you get into that situation. Okay? What does wrong look like? So this is one thing you always have to ask yourself and answer that question before the market answers it for you. Does that make sense? All right, so that's CRO. Thanks for asking. All right, so let's move along here. All right, cool, from Portugal. Hey, welcome. Obrigado. That's all I could say in Portuguese. Sean had a nice purchase. Looking at Intel. Okay, so let's take a look at Intel. Sean mentioned a nice long in Bitcoin. I was going to put Intel USD. All right, so Intel, market stock, right? We all know Intel. Let's take a look at the bigger picture. And I like the current price action. Let's look at the weekly chart. So Sean is saying Intel looks like it may be oversold or something like that. What are you saying here? Do you think, okay, company seems undervalued. All right. Yeah, I mean, as we know, Intel is a industry leader. It's definitely not a garbage stock. You are near, we could see the midpoint of the range. I had this line on this chart, so we must have looked at this at some other point. But you're not at the range low, all right, which means it has some room. This is your range low on Intel right here. Now, what's interesting about Intel is the market got hammered, okay? And Intel is nowhere near its low, so it's acting somewhat relatively strong. I mean, let's take a look. Let's take a look at this real quick. I mean, this is the NASDAQ, right? And Intel is obviously a big part of this, or whatever, general stock market. And actually, the market hasn't really pulled back that much. This is on the weekly chart. This is actually an area to be going long, the NASDAQ. So, all right, so that brings us back to Intel. All right. So I would agree, Sean, like Intel is not a bad idea for inventory. I think they even pay a dividend. Intel is certainly a good stock for that. You also have this little mini double bottom recently. So here's the thing, you want to do $100 a month. I don't see anything wrong with that. Intel, you have the possibility of getting some better prices, right? If Intel goes to that range low, which is, what's that price there? 47, basically 47.5. So you have that opportunity, right? Otherwise, if you start buying into this now, you at least you're not buying the highs, and there's a double bottom. So nothing wrong with that, to answer your question. I think Intel would be great for inventory. It's a good stock. And the NASDAQ, as we saw, is, because again, the NASDAQ is like the key driver here, right? If the NASDAQ breaks, all of these things are going to break. If the NASDAQ holds that support and we see another leg higher, these things should do well. So in this, like, here's one thing to keep in mind, Sean. So let's say over the next few weeks or whatever, few months, you accumulate some Intel. And Intel happens to revisit the highs, right, in the next few months, something like that. Don't be afraid to reduce your inventory at good levels, at retail levels, right? The Intel pushing new highs. Don't be afraid to let some go. And then when you get to another cycle bottom, which may take a year or something, you start averaging back in. So don't be afraid to average out is my question when you get those prices. But as far as averaging in, yeah, I like it. So thanks for bringing up Intel. Definitely a good one for that. Wedge, just wanted to thank you. Okay, no problem. Oh, so Wedge got some. Right, Wedge, nice, at the low. Had my position trades waiting. And see, You wait. So Wedge, you bring up an interesting thing. Like I said before, patience, right? All those people that were too anxious to buy at the top. Why do people want to buy at highs? Because they think it's going to go higher. What drives that? It's greed, right? They think they're going to miss out. So they think, oh, I want to make money. Well, my friends made money. Well, what you did, Wedge, is you waited. And now those same people gave it to you, okay? They banged it out. They got margined out, and you waited. The value of patience. People give me a hard time for being patient and waiting and waiting and waiting and letting the market run away without me and waiting and waiting. But here you go, okay? Because I know that things cycle, and at some point you're going to get a cycle low. It may be prices that we didn't expect, but here you go, right? So nice job on being patient and letting the market come to you. And also knowing that you were taking a position trade, because a lot of people don't even know what type of trade they're taking. So thanks for mentioning. Wedge, okay. Hey, Kai. Okay, cool. GLB, is that the full symbol? Let me see here. GLBE. Let's take a look. GLBE. What's the story with that? GLBE. Okay. Global, okay, E online. All right, let's take a look. So this is the price data that I have. General structure is bullish, right? Nice, broader, bullish structure. Recent improvement in price structure. You have these higher low situation, like you have this basically inverted head and shoulders right here. You see that? Head, shoulder, followed by higher low. So, and today's outside bar, definitely a good one for a long, okay? Now, keep in mind that the NASDAQ and S&P are coming off their short-term low, so that would all make sense. It's not like you're buying at S&P highs, right? So you have the outside bar. That's a prompt to go long. You have risk defined at 54.93. What's the price right now? 60. Okay, so you're looking at about 6 points, maybe a little bit more. 6 points of risk. Can this thing give you 6 points at minimum? Let's see. Well, where would that be? What's this high over here? No, that wouldn't be it. Let's see, what about up in here? So you need price to get somewhere up in there, okay? Somewhere in that area. Actually, that would be, this thing closed at 60, 67. No, actually, that's too high. You don't need it to go that high. You need it to go somewhere around here, the mid-60s, okay? So that puts you back at this range high, somewhere around here. You see, profit targets, people a lot of times will ask me about profit targets. Profit targets should be defined in terms of risk. So if you're at 1.5 to 1 or 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, if you're over 1 to 1, you should be taking something off the table. It doesn't matter what price. You don't have to take it all off, but you should take something off and take advantage of the herd while they're willing to take it off your hands. So in this situation, once you reach 1 to 1, which would be around here somewhere, that would be a good place to start taking profits. Of course, you want to try to let some ride and see if it goes further, but the structure is in your favor at this point, okay? You do have the higher low, so I definitely like that as a swing trade idea. The risk reward makes sense, and more importantly, the NASDAQ is on your side, okay? Because the NASDAQ is coming off of a low. That's very important, right? Like, people don't realize how important this is. That's important. So what was that? Okay, so GLBE, yeah. So I definitely like it. Thank you for bringing that one up. Definitely a good one for a potential swing trade idea. Okay, Peter, Cardano. Let's see what that mess looks like. Cardano. Oh, I knew. Look, I didn't even look at the thing yet, and I called it a mess. Do you know why I called it a mess? Because I've seen so much hype on this stupid coin. Here's the weekly. Let's take a look at the weekly. Right, this thing was supposed to 50x. You're supposed to be a millionaire, all this other nonsense. And look at this thing. This thing broke this support. I warned about this support at $1.90. I warned about that support. Should not break it. It broke it. Okay? So here you are. You're fooling around this support zone. What is this here? $1.18. So basically, you're looking at about $1, this range right in here, right? So between the $1.20 and $1, that's your support range. Now, Bitcoin is going to have to agree with you on this. This is an early purchase. You have the same situation as Bitcoin. You have the pin bars developing, possible buy signal developing. You have all that. It's an aggressive long if it gives you the signal. I would call that an aggressive long, right? That's 142 right there. And this is, what's this price here? Okay. So if you're interested in an aggressive long, at least you have the level, but the structure is not in your favor. You're fighting lower highs. So like I said, if Bitcoin can't get its act together, even though you're getting good prices here, this thing is likely to test those lows. So you have to keep that in mind. You have to answer the question, are you willing to take the aggressive risk? If not, then you can wait for a more conservative structure to develop, like the double bottom, meaning this thing needs to pop up without you and then pull back and retest. That can take a week, maybe longer, right? You want to see that first. But again, just keep in mind, if you're not taking out these highs, then this thing's got problems. Look at this up here, right? I wonder how many people got fooled into this one over here. Cardano's breaking out. It's going to be at 50x by tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. How many people got stuck in this? Okay, and now they're in hope mode. I hope you're not one of those people. Anyway, so that's the situation with something like this. I would hold off, right? Because I tend to be more conservative with these things. I don't like these aggressive trades, especially in these garbage coins, because most of these coins are garbage. They're highly speculative and they should be treated like penny stocks. Penny stocks are garbage stocks. Penny stocks are not Intel, right? So treat these the same way. So that's why it's better to be more selective and more conservative. At least find something, if you're looking for longs, find something with a better looking chart. This chart doesn't look that good, right? The recent structure is not that supportive. We've looked at some better charts here than this. All right, so anyway, thank you for asking. That's Cardano. Okay, oh man, this was like an hour ago. All right, so I'm just catching up here. All right, no problem. Hey, Andre, can you please look at CHGG? Okay, I guess it's a stock, right? CH, yeah, 4 letters should be. All right, so this thing got hammered recently. Look at that gap. That's probably a report. Usually that's what stocks do. They come out with a report that's not so good and it gaps. So what about now? Well, after such a gap, let's take a look at this thing on a weekly chart. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, we had a trade in this a while back. That's what that is up there. How much money is this? It's like $100. Yeah, I would hold off on this. Look, you are at attractive levels, okay? You are at, so look at this double bottom support. You are at the support and it's trying to recover there. So others are obviously stepping in. Price is proving that there is buying activity here. But like I talked about with some of those other situations, this right here is the initial move, okay? And it's a high risk move because this market, this stock can still test the low again, possibly establish a lower high. And if it was going to establish a lower high, I would suspect it would start to do it around the gap area because typically gaps act as support or resistance. In this case, you have a gigantic resistance zone. So it's not the size of the zone that matters, but what matters is that you have that zone there and this thing may find a lower high there. So you got plenty of room to play with, but this thing can establish that lower high anywhere between here and that zone. It can come out of anywhere. So the initial move is a tough move to take. If you're very aggressive and you're watching it, okay, but there's really no reason to get long this thing, especially after such a move. So the more conservative thing, again, wait for a higher low, wait for a double bottom. See if you can get that, because at least that would be the first step of proving that the structure is changing. But the main step, or the key, is letting resistances need to break. That proves that the market is getting strong again, right? Because weak markets don't take out resistance levels. They respect them. This hasn't proven any of that yet. So now if you're thinking as an investment, well, you're definitely at low levels and it's better to invest at lows than at highs, right? If you believe in the company, you know their fundamentals and all that other stuff, you know, but that's a different story. I'm not very familiar with what they do. But as far as swing trades go, there's nothing there at the moment, but certainly one to keep an eye on. I don't like stocks that have these huge gaps in them like that, because then they can be problematic going forward. I want to see the structure improve itself, kind of like right where we are with Bitcoin. I want to see the structure improve itself because right now the structure is not favorable. okay, for longs. Anyway, so thanks for asking about CHGG. Okay, Jose from Mallorca. Hey, mucho gusto. ¿Cómo estás? What are your thoughts about possible? Okay, so that's an interesting question, Jose, about China. Well, I think the China situation, again, I don't pay much attention to that stuff. You know why? People, how could you not pay attention? That's crazy. How can you not know what's going on in the world? Because it's not very helpful information. You know why? It invites logic into my thinking, and I know that markets don't operate on logic. So to answer your question about the whole Chinese, if there's another situation in China, some kind of financial situation, it can just be another excuse to move the market to where the market was going to go anyway. The key factor that I'm watching, or the main catalyst that I'm watching, is the dollar and interest rates, because that is what truly drives, that's a big factor. Any other factor, something like a Chinese financial situation, that will just add to it. That'll just be a coincidence. And then, you know, the news can point to, oh, China, and China's got problems, and now the whole globe, the whole world is selling off, right? Blah, blah, blah. It's just an excuse. So I don't pay any attention to it. Price structure, price action tells me what to think and how to manage my risk. That's it. All right, so I hope that answers your question. All that other stuff is just entertainment. Hey, Bill, good to see you. Oh, thanks, Bill. I know I was having problems there. Okay, hey, Douglas, Matic. Oh, let's take a look at Matic. What's Matic been up to? I haven't seen too much hype on Matic. Let's see. What's been going on here? Oh, interesting. So here's one that's a relatively strong stock. I mean, look, think about that chart we just looked at with Cardano. And look at this chart, much better looking chart. That's a daily chart. Let's take a look at the weekly. So definitely strength there, right? Look, higher lows, and it's on its high while the market sold off. That's relative strength. That's a good looking chart. Now, as far as longs go, you are at highs. Okay, so now we get back into that situation with resistance levels. You are at a resistance level. Now, so it's risky, right? It's much higher risk if you're looking for the breakout. Now you have relative strength on your side because this thing hasn't even thought about selling off, right? Obviously, it's doing its own thing relative to Bitcoin and the rest of the world. So in a situation like this, if you want to go for the breakout and higher high attempt, you have an inside bar in place. I mean, this thing barely sold off here, right? But you're going to have to take a lot of risk. So what is the risk? The low of this candle, which is $1.70. Current price is $2.16. So you're looking at least 40, 50 cents, something like that. And you need this thing to break out, and you need this thing to start pushing all-time highs. You need to justify making 40 or 50 cents, right? You have the structure on your side, but in these situations, if you want to be aggressive and you want to go for something like that, then what you need to do is you need to babysit, and you need to wait. Like if something goes wrong, meaning it tries to break out and then it fails right away, you know, like kind of like this back here, right? It tried to break, it started to go somewhere and then it failed. That's where you have to start making adjustments. That's where if you have a small win, you take it. If you have a small loss, you take it. But you don't get stuck in these things because, you know, they all look good until some news comes out and then they don't look good anymore, right? So that's the game you're playing when you play that game. But generally, the structure here is bullish. There's no question. And you do have higher lows, okay? So theoretically, it should make a higher high. Certainly what I like about it is the fact that Bitcoin has underperformed and this thing is still pushing highs. That's a good sign, okay? That means there is buying activity there. All right. Okay. Oh, Sean. Okay. Okay, cool. Kai, I had a short open. Oh, 10% of the move. Oh, well, Kai, if you were short Bitcoin, like, you know, again, you know that I don't short it. It's a tough one to short. I think on a day trade time frame, it makes a lot more sense because, you know, you're not taking a large magnitude of risk. It's hard to swing trade on the short side. That's why I'd rather choose something like a Forex pair, which is it's a lot easier to deal with. Okay, anyway, but thanks for sharing. Just getting through here, just going through the chat. Let me see here, catching up. Hey, Michelle, buongiorno. David, great time to buy position trade, 25%. Yeah, if you're talking about Bitcoin, I think it's like I said before, certainly good for inventory. These are these are wholesale prices, like I wrote about in my TradingView article yesterday. Just keep in mind that they can still cycle lower. Okay, so that's why, if you, like I said, you want to skew slightly larger, okay, but the mistake you want to avoid, don't go all in at these prices. Okay, you should never go all in. Even if price doesn't go lower from here and you have to buy higher prices, again, you're distributing your risk over a range of prices. So just keep that in mind. But it's okay to skew slightly larger at this time because we are nearer a low. That makes sense. All right? Does that make sense to you? Montesser, hey, welcome from France. Welcome. Scott, hey, Scott, good to see you. I completed a year's membership with you guys and just wanted to say thank you. I came in. Oh, cool. I appreciate that, Scott. Thank you for the kind words. Yeah, remember, you're one of our long-time members. I'm glad you've learned it and changed your perspective. I mean, that's one of the whole things. That's why, we do what we do. Okay, hey, Eric, Luna, if you get to it. Okay, let's take a look. What's going on with Luna? I haven't heard too much about Luna. Ooh, all right. So again, these are good-looking charts, right? And they're just pulling back a little bit now. So let's take a look at the weekly. I like to look at the weekly because I want to get some perspective as to how they've been behaving in recent time. Now, Luna is clearly near these all-time highs. So generally speaking, these are not the best prices to be getting long, okay? Doesn't mean they may not test the high. It could go higher. You're looking at aggressive longs at these levels. So your support is going to be around there. Let's see what that is on the regular time frame. And look, it touched that support just a couple of days ago. So here you go, right? This old resistance, new support, overlap. So as far as Luna goes, that's where you should be looking for longs for a swing trade. If anything, that would be a good level. As of right now, these candlesticks are not supportive. So I would not, there's no reason to go long at the moment. There are some other coins that had much more supportive price action. So at this point, let it retest that old resistance, which is 54.25 basically, and see if you can get price action that becomes supportive there. Now, one tricky thing I want to point out is when the market sold off the other day, right? Look how this candle, it touched that support area and gave you a pin bar like right away. That's tough to take on this time frame, right? That's where something like a 4-hour chart or an 8-hour chart might be more helpful. But again, you're in a riskier area. So I don't really encourage working on smaller time frames unless you have more experience and you specifically know you're getting into swing trades, right? And you know the magnitude of risk that you're taking. But that would be the only way to get into something like this, right? Because on a daily chart, there's nothing there. So some people may ask, oh, should I go to a 1-hour? Not on these things, right? For a stock, sure, but not for these. 4-hour, no lower than a 4-hour chart. All right, so that's Luna. So not bad, just nothing there at the moment. Wait for support. Hey, Thomas, Tesla and ARK. Okay, so I'll take a look at Tesla. I got to wrap this up shortly, but let me just run through a couple more here. So I'm going to answer if you put 2 in a question, I'm going to answer the first one. So look at this. Clearly, Tesla, we all know Tesla. Great stuff, great chart. Okay, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and talk about fundamentals, but great chart, right? Now what we have here is a range low, and this is a double bottom, higher low, okay, pin bar to go long. So this is bullish, right? And you have, this is a great idea here for a swing trade. This is exactly what you want to see, right? This is an ideal setup. If it takes out this pin bar high, 1021 is the high, 1021, that would be a long. Now your risk is defined at 1,008, okay? 1,008 is, no, I'm sorry, the low, no, I'm sorry. Let me correct that. The low is 950. So you're looking at a good 70, 80 points of risk, something like that. But if this thing works its way back to the range high, the potential for the reward risk is there. I think you can justify risking 100 points and make 100 points. in something like Tesla. I mean, we all know, all Elon has to do is come out and say something, like, hey, I'm going to build another rocket and we're going beyond Mars this time. You like that's my Elon Musk impression. You like it? You probably get mad at me, but anyway, so there's I think there's a lot of positive things that can come along. He's making phones now. I mean, all kinds of stuff going on with this thing. All right, none of that matters. Point is, you're at a range low, double bottom. This is definitely a long setup. Okay, that's a long setup. You have your risk defined. Now you just have to see if this thing can justify that, right, for a swing trade. I wouldn't go crazy and think that it's going to break out of the consolidation. While anything is possible, that you let the market tell you at that time. Does that make sense? But I definitely like it. Definitely a long. Okay. If I have time, I'll try to get back to ARK. Michelle, we are in a wave 4 for. So, all right, so Michelle, I answered that earlier. As far as Bitcoin goes, I believe we are in a ABC of a wave 4, and I think we're in the C wave, or wave 4s don't necessarily have to be 3 waves. They can be compound corrective moves like gold, right, where we can see 3 waves overlap by another 3 waves, overlap by another 3 waves. So we're possibly in a C wave on Bitcoin, but like I said before, if the wave count gets confusing, I don't use it. So it's got to be crystal clear. But that hopefully that answers your question. Okay, Ying from Spain. Mucho gusto. I'm sure you speak Spanish, right? ¿Cómo estás? Shall we take a look at Spotify? All right, so I'm going to run through the first. Let's take a look at Spotify. Spot. Now look, this one does not look as good as Tesla, right? We can see you see that structure? I mean, you see the contrast that I'm talking about? So here's a weekly of Spotify. You are at a good level, okay? It failed off of this area up here. Probably they probably had a report, a company report or something. I don't know. But obviously the market wasn't too happy with it. Look, notice that resistance was an area that you could have projected from a long time ago, and it reacted up there, right? How that information can help you is you should know not to buy at such levels because the risk is very high. All right, so that takes us to where we are now. We are at levels where buying is sensible. All right, so let's take a look at let's go back to the daily chart. Now, so you're at a level of interest, but the current price action, I would hold off on this. We looked at a stock similar to this earlier, or a chart that looked like this. You have some buying activity going on. You are at a level, but the thing is you are still going against a series of lower highs and lower lows. That's a corrective structure. And this thing hasn't proven yet that it's out of that structure. So that's why buying now, I think, is very aggressive and carries the most risk. Because if this thing forms another lower high, you're looking at a lower low, right? So in this situation, like I said before with those other ones, wait for a double bottom, wait for a higher low, right? Even that's somewhat aggressive if you're not above this high, which is what, 250? So the most conservative thing I think you could do is wait for a break of 250 followed by a higher low. That would at least tell you that the structure is changing and it's more likely going back into bull mode, right? Because I mean, generally the stock is not completely in bear mode here, right? This is just one big broad consolidation and you're nearer the range low, but this is not the range low. Just keep that in mind. You're near the range low. So it's possible that it can still test the range low, right? So just a few points to consider. But if this thing rallies off of here, which is possible, you might as well wait for the structure to go your way first. And at least, you got plenty of potential if the structure can improve. Does that make sense? So I hope that helps. I mean, Tesla was a much better choice as far as swing trades go. So I hope you can see why. All right, so that was Spot. All right, I'm just going to run through the chat here, see if I could, I got so many more things. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up here in a moment. Let me see here, hold on. Okay, so let me just see if I get some quick questions I can answer. All right, so Kai, yeah, it's too early for anything. Okay. Samir, hey, from India, welcome, Samir. India, man, it's got to be like, what, 3 a.m. over there? or 4 a.m., I have to give you props for that. That's crazy. I wouldn't want to listen to me at 4 a.m. Definitely not. So thank you for stopping by. Do you think price of Bitcoin is going to behave the same way during the March of 20, according to the way? Well, no, I never think things are going to behave the same way as they previously behaved, because while markets history repeats itself, it doesn't repeat itself in an exact way. So I wouldn't give that any weight. Just keep an eye on the levels, right? The levels will tell us what it wants to do. So thank you for asking. Asif, your thoughts on Lucid Motors? Okay, I'll take a look at Lucid. Hey Adrian, good to see you. Shanka, from Vienna. All right, cool. We got all my regulars coming back in here. Okay, so okay, let's see. Felipe. All right, I'm just running through the chat here just to see. Talking markets, right? Yeah. Okay, BC, generally speaking, I don't really like taking trades right after huge wicks. Don't these wicks have a high? Okay, all right, so good question. All right, I want to answer that. Let me just go back to, all right, so let me do Lucid real quick. I mean, Lucid is basically like, competitor for Tesla there. Let's take a look here. LCID, right? All right, hold on, let's take a look. So, as far as he's asking, overvalued or undervalued, I want to take a look at the weekly chart. Look at this mess. All right, I would say it's in a tough spot. Look, you're coming off this high. The fact that it went so quickly and reversed is not a good sign. All right, when things go vertical like that, that's trouble. All right, if you're not in from the bottom of that, that's trouble. So as far as overvalued or undervalued, it's not undervalued. This thing needs to test supports, and that is around $28, $28 and a quarter. This thing right now is at $44.86. You're not even in the middle of the range, right? So I would definitely say it's not undervalued. You have a lot of room to play with. Any price action up in these areas here are going to be tough because you're near that resistance, and a lot of people that got caught are going to be happy to sell and get out, right? People that got caught in this ridiculous move because they thought, they believed some expert who says that this thing was going to double or triple and they were going to be millionaires, and you know how all that nonsense goes, and they're going to be happy to sell, right? You have a lower high over here, so I would not do anything with this right now. It's if anything, it's an aggressive long, and if it takes out this low as a swing trade, 38, if it takes it out, then it's probably going to start working its way lower. So yeah, that's what I would say about that. So again, we want to compare this to something like Tesla. Tesla had a much better looking chart compared to something like this. Okay, does that make sense? So hope that answers your question. All right, so that was Lucid. All right, Adrian. Okay, cool. So I'm just running through here again. Yeah, cool, Adrian. Again, mindset is so important, right? So if you understand how you fit in, it really puts a lot of things into perspective. David. Okay, cool. All right, so I just answered that one. Felipe, SLP. All right, let's take a look. SLP, USDT. I try to squeeze in as many of these as I can because I want this session to be valuable to you. All right, SLP. First thing I want to see. Let's take a look at this weekly. Right off the bat, I don't like this. This chart looks horrible. Okay, so compared to something like Matic, right? We saw Matic was on its highs basically. This chart means this price action right here. There's no buying going on in this thing. This is just hyped and people are stuck in it, right? That's what this chart's telling me. You're breaking supports. Bitcoin touched the support and held the support. This thing broke. This thing's not good. So maybe you know something about it that we don't know. Maybe you're in, maybe you believe in whatever they do. I don't know. I don't know what they do. But here's the thing. If you want to wait for this thing to firm up, that would probably be the best choice. Meaning, let this thing stabilize. It should not be breaking supports. I don't care what, even if you get supportive candles here, you get a pin bar, the structure is not favorable, right? You're more likely to get faked out. So wait for this thing to at least deliver a double bottom, a higher low, and just so you know, it tried to do that recently, right? Look at this. Nice higher low, nice breakout, followed by this, which means everyone that got sucked in here, look at those long tails. They're getting banged out here, Okay, so there's no stability here. I would not do anything with this. And because these things, most of these are garbage, I would not suggest building inventory in these either. You want to build inventory, you pick something like Ethereum or Bitcoin, you know, something of quality, first tier. This is just garbage. You know, maybe they're not paying enough fake gurus to market their coin. Anyway, okay, so I hope that answers your question about SLP. Okay, let me see here. So Janet Jr., BTC, generally speaking, I don't really, okay, so I want to answer that question, right? And then I'll wrap this thing up here. Don't these wicks, so he's asking about, you know, don't these wicks get revisited? Look at, what's this thing right now? Hey, X, it's almost that, X was asking earlier, can this thing go to 51.5? You're almost there, almost 1,000 points away. I told you can get there. All right, so can these wicks be visited? Yeah, sure, they can be. But the thing is, they are a sign of buying activity. So it's really not the wick that really matters here. It's really the level, right? And also what matters here is the structure, right? Not the wick, but where are you coming from before that? This big structure here, that's the problem, right? Or that's what makes this, people don't realize. They just say, oh, it's a low, I'm gonna buy it, right? But they don't realize that the momentum is still bearish, okay? There's nothing here that proves in terms of structure that the momentum has changed yet. On smaller time frames you can find it, but not on this time frame, which means it may go to a point, form another lower high, and then you get the retest. So don't think of wicks that way, like, oh, you know, wicks are not reliable. It's not really that. The wick just gives us an idea that the level that it bounced off of, it means that there's something going on here. In terms of order flow, there's buying activity there. That's what it means, okay? Because the candle reversed off of that area quickly, and that's why you see the wick. So, you know, if we revisit the area, then it's reasonable to anticipate buying to step in again. And it's good to wait for confirmation in that situation, because sometimes you get a temporary wick and then it'll break, right? But what I'm saying to you is, don't judge wicks like that. Just use them as, okay, there's a wick here. That means buying or selling took place and I can see evidence of it. Okay, so if price goes there again, then it's reasonable to anticipate a repetition of that. Okay, cool. ARC seems to be falling. Okay, okay, you're now, okay, cool. Oh, I appreciate that, Samir. Smooth Love Potion. Okay, that's really what it's called? Wow, Kai, no wonder. I guess it's a meme coin, right? Like SHIB. Where is SHIB, by the way, real quick? I remember this was supposed to, I mean, it's not a horrible structure, but where is this thing at? 0036 or whatever. This thing was supposed to, you know, increase by 25,000%, and you were supposed to be a millionaire. And all that talk occurred like in here, basically, right? I'd say between here and here is where all that talk occurred, and look where you are now. All you have to do is wait. Anyway, all right, I got to wrap this up. I'm sorry. Like, I see a few more questions, and I know people are asking about a few other, like ARC and things like that. I apologize. I have to go. I appreciate very much spending time with me here. Yeah, I have to. I'm just looking through the chat. Okay, yeah, I got to go. All right, so people, let's just go back to Bitcoin real quick. So there we go. So again, thank you for spending some time here with me. I hope you found this useful. I hope you got some perspective out of this. Again, if you want to learn more about Greenbridge and some of the strategies that we employ, like whether it's investing or swing trade, just click on the show more. You'll see some links there. Now, I just want to leave you with this. Like I said, don't get fooled by this stuff, right? Let the price prove itself. Even if the candle looks strong and you think, okay, this is it, this is the bottom, it can change real fast. Just keep in mind, just a few days ago, we had this initial move here and everyone was saying we're going back to 70K and we went to 42K. Let the structure change, okay? So I'll leave you with that. Again, this game is about risk first. Always know where your risk is, and that risk should be defined by the market. Not your own hunches, not your own opinions, not someone else's opinions. Stop listening to people. listen to price, because price gives you the reality of what's going on. All right, and price action analysis is what we're doing here. And I use different techniques to help me arrive at what price is likely to do next. Although, as we know, nothing is 100%. That's why we need to know our risk, okay? And we can get that from levels, we can get that from structure, and we can get that from candlesticks. So thank you all again. Thank you for participating, asking some great questions. I should be back on Thursday, so if I missed your question, you can ask then. Other than that, wherever you are in the world, enjoy the rest of your day, or the rest of your evening, and thank you so much for watching.